Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Smashing Kidney Disease. I am your host, Steve Belcher. Thank you for joining us tonight. Man, tonight we got a great show. The warrior I have on tonight, I seen him when I first started my organization back in 2014 when he was doing some film work. Uh, Kidney warrior filmmaker Scott Burton from the Forever Is Tomorrow Foundation. What's going on, Scott?
How's it going?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Man, I can't complain.
Great, great, man. It's good to have you on. Like I mentioned to you, I first saw your work in 2014, one of your very first videos. How did that come about, that first project?
Honestly, it was just an idea and we ran with it.
Oh, yeah,
All great projects start with an idea. So,
right. Now, let's hear your story with kidney disease. How did your journey begin?
my journey began at birth. So I was born with a blockage that damaged the kidneys. Doctors gave me 2 days to live. Obviously, they were wrong. So anyway, the damage was done. They didn't expect my original kidneys to last very long. They held out till I was 12. Went on dialysis at 12. Spent 4 years on PD and got a transplant cadaver. That lasted for a very rough 4 years. In and out of the hospital with high dose steroids to keep it working. And then January 3rd, 2003, I started back on in-center hemo. And so I've been doing that for the last 16 years.
So basically, practically your whole life, you've been battling this disease.
Yeah, from day one.
Wow, wow. Now, when you was young, like 8, 9 years old, did you know that you had kidney disease? That something was going on?
Yeah, I knew, unfortunately it was the grim reality from day one. I guess you could say I kind of tried to ignore it and not think about it, but it's kind of hard to not think about something that's like right in your face. It was from birth. We knew that dialysis was coming. Um,
Hmm.
after I guess the blockage was removed and they got me running, or the kidneys were working and everything, and there were a lot of surgeries in between that and my original kidney failure. But at that point, the focus switched to just getting me big enough to be able to take an adult kidney, because obviously infant kidneys are harder to get. And then surprisingly, my kidneys held out till I was 12, um,
Hmm.
and went on dialysis at 12 years old. So,
So during your adolescence years when you was dealing with this disease, did that have an impact on your friendship or hanging out with other kids?
I mean, of course it did. That's the reality of the situation. You're juggling life around dialysis, no matter what modality you're doing. But you make do. You find out who your real friends are real quick.
Hmm. I asked you that. I'm trying to remember the guest we had on. I think I want to say Mercedes McLean. I can't remember the guest we had, but they dealt with the same issue during their adolescence years, and they went to school and they didn't tell anyone. So no one knew when they were going to high school that our guest, I can't remember the exact person, had kidney disease during that time. So I was just wondering, was that something that you kind of kept from your friends, or it just didn't matter?
No, for the most part, I've always been pretty open about it. It's a fact of life. You can't really change it. I say that, but at the same time, it's like it was a situation where it was like I was open about it, but not too open.
Hmm.
It wasn't until I launched the foundation that I actually let my walls down and allowed myself to be vulnerable and really put it out there. Um, and that was kind of a culture shock in itself because there's something that I didn't really open up on that level about. And then we launched the foundation, and I had no choice. It was time to open up.
Hmm. Have you, when you was young, like around 12, did you ever say, why me, dealing with this at such a young age?
Man, I still say, why me? um, yeah, of course. I mean, you go through all of the emotions, the anger, the depression. Um, I think when you're going through it that young, it becomes this constant circle that you go through.
Hmm.
There's really no way out of it. It's just this revolving door you can't get out of. So you're going to go through the emotions. You're going to go through. Um, it's hard. You have to give
Hmm.
up a lot. Uh, for lack of a better word, to stay alive.
Hmm.
But
At 12, no, and I know we can't foresee this, but did you have any glimpse when you look back at 12 that you would be doing what you're doing right now, advocating for against this disease?
no, because I think I took the mindset that I think a lot of transplant recipients take, at least where I got my transplant and I was done. As far as I knew, I was good to go. That's the I guess the naivety of a 16-year-old kid. I thought I was unstoppable, and you don't really think about it. But looking back, I wouldn't change anything.
So
I mean,
during that time, were you compliant with your transplant medication
I was.
at a young age?
Yeah, I was super compliant. But like I said, it was never a good match. They told us that after the fact. They didn't really tell us before we got the transplant, and it was pretty much every break I had from school, I was in the hospital getting dosed with steroids just to keep it working. And then it finally just got to the point where it was decided that it was doing more damage pumping me full of steroids than good trying to keep it working.
Mhm.
So we made the call to kind of call it quits and go back on dialysis.
So how old were you when you received the transplant?
It was 1 month shy of my 17th birthday.
Hmm. Hmm. So can you take us back to that day you got the call at 17 that after all these years, a kidney finally came in for you? Do you remember what that day was like at 17?
I don't remember it at all. To be honest with you, I have blocked out a lot of that time frame of my life. Every now and then memories from it will creep back, but yeah, to be honest with you, I can't remember that night at all.
Hmm. Well, let me ask you this: do you remember if you was the happiest kid in the world?
I think I was. I think that's a pretty safe bet.
Hmm. Were you treated any different because of your disease when you was a kid?
Um, I mean, I think that that's just the normal, childhood growing up. Kids are going to be mean. They're going to latch onto something. So yeah, I mean, there were comments made. There were things said. But I mean, that's just, I hate to use the phrase, but I mean, you can't get around that. I mean, kids are going to be mean because they don't know what they're talking about at that age.
Hmm. Hmm.
But see, my outlet when I started going through it was writing. So I started writing poetry at a very young age, and I still do that today, and that became my fallback as far as just releasing the emotions and everything. That and art has always been kind of just where I've zoned out and forgot about reality for a little while.
Yeah, I've seen some of your poetry, man. It's really deep. It's you and Chris Hansel. Man, y'all write some deep stuff.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you were during your adolescent years, did you ever experience in-center hemodialysis?
So I was on PD before my first transplant. There was about a 6 month window where I got peritonitis and had to go in center. And so I did do in center for about 6 months in that 4 years. And then towards the end of that, peritoneal was no longer adequate. So we were in the process of making the switch to hemo. Actually, when I got my first transplant, so a month before I got my first transplant, they had put a fistula in with the plan of starting on hemo, and then I got the call and got a transplant.
We got a question for you from Jared Brown. He wants to know, how did you use your creative skills to stay positive?
Um, Release. I mean, I wrote, I painted, still write, still paint. Got notebooks full of poetry and stories that I've written, and really my creative side just became my outlet. So it's like that was what I could do. I could go somewhere, I could shut the door, lock myself away from everybody else, and just throw it all onto paper. And so that's kind of what I did, and definitely used that.
Hmm. Was there a time when you went into in center as a adolescent where you saw older patients and you thought, like, what am I doing in here?
I'll be honest with you. I tried not to pay attention to it. They had me set up in a private room in the corner, and I tried to tune everything out. That's kind of how I process things. I just unplug and just kind of throw my blinders on and just don't look.
No, and you know what? I feel like if I was in the same situation, that's what I would do. Um, I mean, I think imagery is definitely important. Um, so, when did you start your foundation?
So we actually officially launched March 3rd, 2016.
Oh,
Um,
you so back in 2014, were you still an organization then?
we weren't. I wasn't going to correct you on that, but no, it was 2016 was our we launched everything in March of 2016 with an official public launch right around April May of 2016, and that's when we threw out the first two PSAs that we put together. And then about a year later, in March of 2017, was when we launched the first episode of the patient series documentary.
Hmm. Oh, so I was incorrect. It wasn't 2014.
Hey,
It
time
was
flies.
2016.
Right?
Okay, I apologize for that, but
Oh, no worries.
I just know when I saw your work, I never seen any work like that pertaining to kidney disease awareness. Um, I just never seen it, and I was just kind of amazed by that. And it's definitely needed out here. What gave you that idea to use people and write statistics on the cardboard?
It was just something that honestly, one of my friends came up with the concept. He was in a band that was playing our launch show, and we wanted to do some kind of video to kind of promote the first event. And so he was just like, what if we do this? And then that kind of snowballed into, well, let's do this, and then it just became this whole huge thing. We ended up shooting it over the course of about 2 days, calling in a lot of favors, um, and just throwing it out there.
Hmm. I got a question for you from Lawrence over the UK. Hey, Lawrence, thanks for watching, man. I appreciate your support from the UK. Thank you so much. Lawrence says, how did you cope with depression and mood swings affected by high steroids at young age and relationship?
Um, Goes back to art. I mean, writing, painting. That's always been my therapy. I can honestly say that if it were not for me finding my creative outlet, I doubt I'd be here right now.
So,
Um,
did you have mood swings with the high steroid use,
um, I'm
or
sure I
simple?
did. I'm sure you mix adolescence with steroids, you're bound to get some crazy mood swings. So yeah, no, they were definitely there. Um, I'd have to probably ask my mom for sure because she could probably remember those better than I can. But yeah, no, I'm sure they were there.
Mhm. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I do. I have three brothers.
Hmm. When you was young, were they tested for kidney disease, or you didn't want to put that pressure on them?
They've all been tested to donate to me, but so I'm B positive. My dad is diabetic with AB. My mom's diabetic with O, and all three of my brothers got A, and I got B.
Wow, wow, that is a roll of the dice.
Right?
When I see something like that, it has to be a purpose for your journey. Um, you mentioned that you were private, with your disease, far as reaching out to people. When did you start reaching out to Facebook members and really started opening yourself up?
Um, Probably mid 2015. At that point, I was kind of just starting to think about the foundation. Really recognize that there was kind of a need for more video content, a need for a resource for patients to be able to tell their story. At that time, there weren't a lot of organizations that were using video and social media. Me having a background in video production and social media marketing, it just there was this gap that could really be filled, and so that was kind of what sparked the idea of starting the foundation with the mission of putting out ongoing video content and high quality videos that can build a resource for patients, both give them a safe space to tell their story, but also build a resource for patients and the general public to find information and just serve as kind of a resource for inspiration and hope. And so I'd say probably mid 2015 was really when I started doing my research, and then actually what sparked it, I was in San Francisco January of 2016, and just on a whim, I hit up UCSF's Kidney Project. Ended up getting a meeting with Dr. Roy, and sat down and talked with him for a while. And so, after I talked to them about their project, that kind of just sped things up. And so I came back, and in 3 months, I had the nonprofit established and launched, and video content in the works, with the plan of highlighting what they research on the field, on the horizon as well. And so that
Hmm.
was kind of, up until that point, it had been an idea and something I was going to pursue, but never really um, hadn't jumped and taken the initiative yet. But then that meeting and being out there and seeing what they were doing, and recognizing the lack of exposure for research on the horizon, it just I guess the filmmaker and social media marketer and me kind of took hold and was just like, there's a need for this. Let's fill that gap.
Now, when you was a kid, well, not a kid, but at 12, 13, 14, 15, when you was dealing with this disease, did you know the impact that it had on the population, or did you thought that you were the only person that was dealing with this disease?
I think I knew the impact, but I didn't think I knew the severity of the impact. I think for me, it was like I listened and I paid attention, but it was easier for me to kind of just ignore and kind of block it out at that age. But I still picked everything up. But that was also what, 36 years ago. It's definitely skyrocketed, and the prevalence of kidney disease has grown so much just in the last. I mean, since I went on dialysis 16 years ago. You've seen this. It's just growing. You've got dialysis centers popping up all over the place. If that's not the first sign that there's a problem, I don't know what is.
Right, right. Do you, is you're in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Have you lived there all your life?
Off and on. I lived most of my life. I moved to Wilmington for about 2 years and started college there before my kidney rejected and went back on dialysis. Moved back to Winston, and then there was about an 8 month stint that I lived up in Asheville. But aside from that, I've been here all my life.
Okay. So have you seen an increase in dialysis facilities popping up in Winston-Salem?
Oh yeah, yeah. They've definitely. I think when I was first on dialysis, there was maybe we'll say two, and now there's just in this immediate area, 10, 15. And let's
Wait a
say
minute. Wait a
let's
minute.
let's say like a 20-mile radius. I mean, serving the area, I'd say they've definitely. I don't want to throw any specific numbers out, but they've
No, no, no,
definitely,
no.
yeah, you
If
know they've
anybody wanted to find out, all they got to do is put in Winston, go to Medicare.gov and put in their city, and then they have a drop down menu that allows you to search for a unit within 25, 50, and 100-mile radius. And so I wouldn't be surprised. Scott, back in 2000, I worked in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I worked at in a town called Sanford. Um, this unit was one of the corporate companies, but I worked with a family. 3 generations went to the same unit, Scott. The mother, the grandmother, and the daughter, all at the same unit. The mother and the grandmother went on second shift, and the daughter was on first shift. Um, in Winston-Salem, is there a high rate of diabetes and high blood pressure in that area?
I'm gonna go with yes. Not based on any factual figures that I know for certain, but you know,
No.
I I think anywhere you go in the U.S., I think you can. It's a pretty safe bet that diabetes and high blood pressure are prevalent. That's something that is continues to grow at an epidemic rate, and it's not being curbed.
Mm, yeah, they're actually the two leading causes. But do you, can you see the impact that you're making with your documentaries?
um, I mean, they're getting views. I get emails and patients reaching out. After videos go live. I definitely think they're skimming the surface. We've got some big projects that we're working on trying to line up right now that will definitely make a measurable impact.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I mean, I think it's getting out there. It's opening up some eyes. If a video that we put out puts out, if it impacts one person's life for the better and makes opens up some eyes, then it's a success. You know.
That's what I was going to ask you. What is your goal with your documentaries?
Um, honestly, just shed light. I'm not. I'm not setting out to quote unquote change the world, but I wouldn't argue with that. But really, it's just shed light on something that I mean people don't know anything about it. There's definitely a breakdown in education. There's a breakdown in testing, and if us throwing some content out there and getting people to watch it, and it opens up some eyes and makes if one person watches one of the videos that we do and we throw out there, and then they go and get tested and find out that they're at risk or they have kidney disease, then as far as I'm concerned, that video is a success
Mm-hmm.
because that's one life. um, Now obviously if 100,000 people watch it and that happens, then it's even more of a success. But
Yeah.
it's not, to me it's about putting it out there and um, I don't think you can really measure success by how many people you touch, because it's more about just making the impact. Um, if you change one person's life for the better, then this life has been successful.
Hmm. Hmm. What hospital are you on the transplant list now?
I am.
Are you on multiple or just one?
Just one now. I was on multiple, but when UNOS changed the allocations for highly sensitized patients, I was told there was really no point in me being on multiple, because with such a high PRA, if one comes in that matches, I'm going to get it no matter where it comes from. So right now I'm currently just on one list.
Oh, so you're pretty much at the top because of your blood type.
Blood type, and then the high PRA.
Hmm. Hmm. Are there any alternatives methods that you can do to reduce your high PRA?
Not not readily available to me.
Hmm.
I don't really have. I mean, since I went back on dialysis 16 years ago, I've had probably about 30 people get tested, but nobody came close enough. So plasmapheresis and the desensitization protocols that are in place really wouldn't have worked with any of those options. So
Wow. Wow. So, what are the chances? Did they give you a numeric percentage?
as far
Like,
as chances of finding a kidney,
right, right, of your type.
I mean, they haven't. Um, off the record, I've had nurses, or I've had nurses off the record say it's going to take a miracle. I won't say I've given up hope on it, but at this point, if it comes, great. If it doesn't, so be it. I'm going to live my life to the fullest and try and make each day better than the last, and make a more positive impact. And when my time comes, I'll go.
Right. Now, is it the high PRA or is just the blood type that um, is causing the long wait, or is it the combination of both?
It's more the high PRA, because I mean I
Mm.
can take an O or a B, um, but being having a PRA of 99 pretty much rules out 99% of the population. So
Did they tell you how that high PRA came about?
well, so the previous transplant, and then I've also had a few transfusions prior to my previous transplant. So anytime you have a transfusion or transplant, you develop antibodies against,
Right.
and so it's just basically transfusions and the transplant.
So, would that be the case for a lot of warriors that may had like one or two transplants, and say they had two transplants and they on that list for a third, they could possibly have a high PRA as well?
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, but it just depends on, obviously I'm no medical professional, uh, but I mean, it just depends on, whatever foreign, um, whether it be transfusion or transplant, just depends on the antibodies that were in that person, so to speak.
Right. Well, let me, hopefully, this will give you some hope. Uh, Jared Brown, again, his sister in law, she's in Saudi Arabia and she had a transplant almost, I'm not even say a year, but she had a high PRA. Hers was 98%.
Okay.
And she got a transplant. She flew from Saudi to Boston
Nice.
and got one. So I mean, I believe there's one out there for you, man. I
Oh
really
no,
do.
I definitely think that when it's time, it'll happen.
Right, right,
Um,
absolutely.
but I'm not gonna sit here and just wait for it to happen.
Right, right. No, I understand. I understand. Wow. Um, So, any new projects? I mean, I know you don't want to get deep into it, but I saw on Facebook with a couple of warriors, Misha Harrison, Patrick G, Durante Briggs, and Dave White.
Hmm.
Were in Richmond. Y'all were collaborating on a shoot. Can you talk a little bit about collaborating with those warriors? And all of them, let me just mention, all of them that you collaborated with are transplant recipients, correct?
Yes.
So this particular project centers around transplant
Well,
awareness.
not necessarily. So our content covers all stages of kidney disease. Dialysis or transplant or pre-dialysis. And as far as this project goes, it's actually a partnership with ESRD Network 5. So March is going to be a busy month. We spent the day up there filming several
Mm-hmm.
interviews, and right now we're working on getting those edited. And the game plan is to release, I'll just say somewhere between 4 and 9 videos in March.
Great. That's wonderful, man. That definitely ups up the awareness, get people in tune. We had a viewer. He wanted to know were you on fluid restriction because he seen you drinking a lot of water.
Yeah, I am, but since I started home hemo and doing it every other day, like I don't really drink that much. And when I'm talking a lot, like you got me doing, I gotta keep drinking water.
Sure. So wait a minute. You just mentioned you started home hemo.
Yes,
How long you
yes.
been doing that?
2 weeks.
Wow. So you just fresh right out the box doing it.
Yep.
How has that been for you?
I mean, it's an adjustment. It's not. There's pros and cons no matter what type of dialysis you choose. I'm still at that adjustment phase. It's kind of annoying having to get up and set everything up and then run and then break everything down. So there's a lot more to it, a lot more responsibility. But at the same
Now you
time,
know how. Now you know how we feel. No.
yeah, but you guys get paid for it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But no, I truly understand, what you're saying. And some people, I guess they see the trade-off as, if they don't have to get up and leave out their door to go into a facility, they'll, take the setup at home. But it's completely understandable that you're not used to it. You're used to going somewhere else and having someone have that all prepared for you when you get there. But I do really encourage people who are doing in-center dialysis that are able to do it at home. I, Me personally, I just feel that that is the best option for people who are able to do it because it just gives you complete control of your treatment, kind of regulates your time. You don't have to leave your house and hurry up to get to dialysis, and you get there, they have you wait 45 minutes to an hour to start your treatment. And next thing you know, you could be gone away 5 to 6 hours, and you only had a 3 hour treatment if you count in the transportation, and especially if you're taking public transportation.
No,
So, right, it's a lot. It's pros and cons to this.
there are. I mean, each modality has pros and cons. You got to find what works best for you.
Hmm.
I switched to home kind of because I just got tired of being in the center. This gives me complete control. I mean, I have more trust in myself, obviously, than I have in strangers, so to speak. And then also just, I knew I was starting back to school in January. And so I was like, well, with that schedule, it's just going to be a lot easier if I can pick the time that I do this and work it around it. So,
Mm.
with so many projects and everything on my plate, it just made sense to go ahead and
Right.
make that jump.
Hey, Scott. Carrie want to know. Hey, Carrie, how you doing? Carrie, she wants to know, do you ever get concerned about power outages or emergencies when doing hemo at home? And I know that's a big concern for a lot of warriors, especially down in the Florida area. and South Carolina and North Carolina when these hurricanes come through. Has that ever been a big concern for you in starting this process?
Not really. I mean, the few times we've lost power where we're at, we've had it back in a, day. Worst case scenario, if I have to take an extra day between treatments and then double up, that's not really an issue. Um, I would honestly say I would be more, or I was more concerned about whenever we would get snow and ice and still having to get there. At least
Hmm.
here, if the power goes out for a day or two, I can figure it out. But if you got to drive 20, 30 minutes to get to the center, and doesn't matter what the roads are like, you still got to get there.
Right. Do you have a generator?
We do have one, yeah.
Okay, great.
So there's
But you
that.
know what? Um, the good thing about PD, if your power goes out, if you got supplies to do it manually, you can switch over to manual.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing with home hemo. You don't have that luxury.
Oh no, I'm thinking PD. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm thinking PD.
but
Uh,
yeah, no, you don't have that. You don't have that luxury with home hemo. But I mean, you can notify your power company and let them know that you've got the a dialysis patient in the house, and they'll
mhm,
move you up as far as priority to get the power back on. So there's always workarounds.
mhm. Do you have a YouTube channel?
We do.
What's the
Um,
name of it?
it's just the Forever's Tomorrow Foundation. And actually, if you go to our Facebook page, there's links there, I believe, for everything. Uh, Hold on, let me pull it up and make
So
sure before I.
Courtney does have a YouTube channel,
It's the Forever's Tomorrow Foundation.
The
If you
Forever
just
Tomorrow Foundation.
Yeah, if you just search the Forever's Tomorrow Foundation, um, I believe we're one of the first ones that come up. Just look for the white logo with green text and the green infinity symbol. Um, and we've got 14 videos on that as well. And
Wow.
then all of our video content gets uploaded to our Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel. So currently everything goes simultaneously to both outlets.
Wow. That's incredible. You say you have 14 videos.
Yeah, and it's let's see, what's the breakdown? What do we have up here? So we've got 3 episodes of Living Donor Stories series that we just launched back in September. So we got the first 3 episodes of that. The first 2 episodes are actually living donors telling their story about donating, and then the third episode is a living donor recipient talking about the process from the recipient side. We've got let's see, what is this? We've got a research video highlighting UCSF's artificial kidney project. We went out. We were in San Francisco, 2017, and filmed with them. We've got a highlight video from one of our local events that we did. We've got a kind of an informational slideshow video. And then we've got two PSAs. One of the ones is the street one that you talked about. And then we've got 5 episodes of the This is Kidney Disease, This is Life, which
Yeah, I
is
seen that.
yeah, that's a series just, telling patients telling their story and talking about their stories.
Do you ever post any of these videos on Facebook?
Yeah, everything gets shared on Facebook as well. And if you go to our Facebook page and go to the videos tab, everything is up on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
So,
Can it be shared?
yep, yeah, everything's public. Everything can be shared.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm gonna definitely share some of your videos because I didn't know you had them readily available. Because any way I can get the message out there, regardless of who's doing the content and the filming, it has to get out there, man. That's what I believe the only way we're going to beat this disease is through education, awareness, and prevention. I
And
don't think,
it,
huh?
and it's all about collaborating. I mean, you're
Exactly.
doing what you do. We're doing what we do. and we've got to find, the place where all of these organizations come together, um, and use our strengths together to really grow the awareness. I feel like too often you have organizations, competing when the message is the same. If the end
Mhm.
goal is if the end goal is the same, why compete? Let's just do it.
You're right. Yeah, you're right, man. You know, just a side note, I got some blowback today because, I posted a picture of a unit where I used to work at, of the treatment room, and a lot of people think I did it because I'm disgruntled. But of course, I'm not going to do it while I'm working there and get fired. I'm not that stupid to do something and somebody go back and say, Steve, posted something, and then they call me in the office and fire me. So, no, but the point is, Scott, the truth is the truth. And, I'm not trying to bring no company down or anything like that, but I'm just trying to raise awareness, because if my mom or any of my family members, friends were going to a unit that the standards were subnormal, of course I'm going to say something. I mean, absolutely. And you
Oh,
know,
I've done a lot of traveling, and I've been in some centers that are just, I mean, they're terrible. You know,
of course. I mean, and people don't see that because they don't see the some places are fully staffed than others. But when you come to a unit where there's lack of staffing because workers feel like they're being pressured to just constantly put people on and take them off, and they don't get to eat lunch, 3 or 4 hours, they don't have lunch, and they're just constantly working and working, that raised serious concerns for patient safety. And when it starts getting like that, of course I'm going to say something. Why
well, I
not?
mean, I'll say this. In the past 16 years, I've definitely, seen a decline in patient care. I've seen, and it doesn't take much to notice where they're cutting costs where they can. Um, and the reality of it is that you're on dialysis, you're not going anywhere. That's your life. Um, so there's definitely been a breakdown. There's definitely been a decline. That there again, awareness, shedding light on kidney disease, I think can set in motion a chain reaction that will eventually lead to an increase in patient care.
No, absolutely. And, just to piggyback where you said you can notice where the cost has been cut. Let me just throw some stuff in there, which some people may um, realize or not. Some of the cuts have been uh, alcohol pads. They once used to be large. Now they're these little teeny alcohol pads. At one time, they used to have sheets that you could put over the chairs. So when they wipe the chairs down, if you sit down, there's no remnants of bleach on the chair. They used to have pillows. They used to have some places used to have ice machine. They took that out. I mean, just so much stuff. I could go on and on and on where it's just been cut, cut, cut. And these are a lot of, the amenities that makes a person comfortable um, doing their treatment. A lot of it, but with the supplies, with the small gauze, they used to have 4x4s. They knock it down to 2x2s. The gloves. Again, I could go on and on, but it's not about the clinic. This is about your story and what you're doing to make an impact uh, this in this field. So, man, I definitely appreciate all that you're doing. What's next for you? I mean, after working with your project now, what are your long term goals for the Forever is Tomorrow Foundation?
So currently we are kind of at a transition phase. Um, for the last 2 years, I've kind of spread myself thin, doing local fundraisers and putting events together. And it became kind of apparent this last year that the video content that we've put out has really been the thing that's been making the impact, not the events that we've been putting together. So, we're kind of scaling that back. I also started school in January, so I'm back in grad school now. So I'm juggling that on top of dialysis, on top of the foundation. Um,
Wow.
so I'm kind of having to kind of pull back and decide, where our focus is going to be. And so right now our focus is, putting more video content out, and then we've got kind of it's been kind of a dream project since we launched the foundation, that we're currently working on putting on paper, and then going to start pitching that out and looking for partners for that. And that's going to be we're going to start by going hitting all 50 states and Canada, doing a cross country trip in an RV. Filming patient stories along the way, documenting the process of doing home hemo in the back of an RV, because why not? But then also there's a certain aspect to that is going to be kind of an ongoing series that will, highlight living life in spite of a chronic illness.
You the second person. I swear, it's something about these cross country trips in these RVs. You're the second person that mentioned that.
Well, see,
Now,
originally it was going to be on motorcycles. Um, and that's still there'll still be an aspect of that, but you do it on motorcycles, you still got to have an RV following you, you still got to have the crew and everything. So we did kind of cut it back and say, all right, let's just do it in an RV. Part of me switching to home hemo was with the possibility of being able to do that for it. And so right now we're just kind of putting that in place. We may try and do kind of an East Coast tour this coming summer for a couple weeks, as a proof of concept. And then the next summer, take 4 months and hit, all 50 states in the U.S. as well as Canada. And, if that goes well, then let's go on down to Mexico and South America, and let's just do it all. Why not?
right now, that East Coast tour, man, I would love to meet up with you if you're on the East Coast in one of those cities. So, I mean, let me know. I get there, man, and I just want to spread awareness
Let's
through
do
what I
it.
do. You know,
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, there's going to be so for that trip, it's there's going to be several facets of it. It's going to be we're looking at doing continuing the web series that we've got and putting 50 plus episodes of those out. Um, but then there's also a broadcast docu-series aspect to it, that we're working on, trying to get the pieces in place. And there's a lot of things in the works. That's kind of becoming it's a pet project of mine, a passion project. And actually where that stemmed from was, when I went back on dialysis, I said, when I get a transplant, I'm loading up a camera and a notebook, getting in my car, and taking 3 months.
I
Um,
hear you, brother.
and so since I haven't gotten a transplant and I'm still waiting, I was like, all right, well, now we're at a place where I can do that with home hemo, just do it in the back of the RV. Obviously there's logistics that we have to work out, but I'm like, you know what? Why wait for a transplant to travel the world?
Absolutely, man. That's great. That's great. I look forward to seeing that. I mean, any exposure is great, man. And like I was mentioning, Joe Bueno down in where he's in North Carolina, or he may be back in South Carolina with Transplant Warriors 24/7. He has the same idea. I believe he's working with some people trying to do travel around the country, speaking with warriors, um, talking with them, and meeting the people that he's worked with, getting on the transplant list, and helping them out. So, man, this is great to
Well,
hear
let's
that you're
yeah,
doing that.
we need to link up. I mean, let's do it.
Yeah, he's doing that, man. This is just great to hear because it's nothing like this that's happening. I mean, if it is, I'm not hearing about it, or it's not being broadcasted, um, nationally, the way you can see something like that. You just hear a lot of stories of transplants, but sometimes you don't see what led up to it. And since we kind of winding down to the end of our time, man, I appreciate you being on. It's someone who's watching that may have a child that's born with kidney disease, or you may have an adolescent that's with kidney disease, or even an adult that's in that stage, or dealing with it, that hasn't started hemo and may be heading that way. Any words of encouragement, or I don't want to say advice, but just based on your life, because you dealt with this for a very long time, can you just leave some words of encouragement for someone who may be dealing with this at this moment, or this is in their future?
I think it comes down to your perception and how you respond. I think it's mind over matter. Me personally, I didn't let I refused to let dialysis keep me down. So I get out of treatment and I go live life and do what I need to do. Yeah, I'm exhausted. Yeah, I'm drained, but I just ignore it and push it aside. Um, it's really just your outlook and how you look at it. You're gonna have ups and downs. That's normal, but find a release for that. Find a therapy that can help you, get through that and just keep push forward.
Wow, I appreciate that. At least I know I'm not the only one that's multitasking and got 1,000 things on their plate. I'm glad to hear that someone else is, because I at one time was in school, working 2 jobs, school, trying to do this, and now still doing a lot. But that's what I enjoy. I mean, I get pleasure doing what I'm doing, talking with you, hearing your story and other warriors' story, and spreading the word of kidney disease awareness, and just letting people know what's going on. So if they are impacted by this disease, at least they has some ammunition to be armed with when they walk in to the unit.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So, hey, Scott, we're definitely out of time, but man, I really appreciate you spending the last hour just sharing your story, telling us about the foundation and what's going on with it. Definitely want to see you come back after you finish all your projects and see how everything went.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're supposed to have Patrick G on, I believe this month or next month. So that ought to be a good show because he's doing a lot of things
Oh yeah,
up in the higher echelon of impacting this disease as well.
exactly. Yeah, he's staying busy.
Wow. All right, Scott. Well, I'll definitely be in touch again. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Thank you.
All right, Scott Burton, y'all. Thanks, Scott. Yeah. Thanks for joining us tonight. The next show coming up, Sisters Against Kidney Disease with host Sorrell, is going to have Phyllis Pinketto. She's an author of Choosing to Triumph. She had a transplant, and based off of her experience, she decided to write a book. It's coming up in 5 minutes. Stay tuned. Sisters Against Kidney Disease. Thank you for watching. Good night. God bless.